I'm sure that there's a fair few people who now watch my videos who only got into electronic drums this year because of being stuck inside, and maybe you've never used them in a live setting. Or maybe you might not have taken the plunge on electronic drums yet, but you've experienced 2020 like the rest of us, and you might be thinking that electronic drums look like a good idea, but you're not 100% sure what all of the benefits would be going into 2021. Or you've played eDrums for ages, you love them, and you just want to watch a video where I tell you all of the things that you enjoy about them and nod along. I'm going to try my best to cover all of that in this click-worthy 5-point list of why you should use electronic drums in 2021. Let's get to it. So first things first, they're pandemic proof. This is the big takeaway from this year. A ton of us have had our live gigs completely torn away from us this year, and although some of them are on their way back, depending on what kind of band you're in, the music that you play and the venues that you play, more on that one shortly, you might still need to rely on playing or practicing at home more than you would like. This is where electronic drums have really shone this year. Out of the ashes of our crumbled society, electronic drums have risen to save many drummers from total despair. They've allowed a lot of people to keep themselves connected with their instrument in a way that they might not have considered before. There's a lot of drummers out there that aren't big fans of electronic drums, and I can completely understand, but it's really difficult to argue that they haven't been incredibly handy for those people who've had access to them. They've also no doubt opened up drumming to a lot of people who weren't able to go out and get one-to-one acoustic drum lessons this year. But things are starting to open back up in a lot of countries, and fingers crossed this situation won't last all too much longer. So why should you pick up eDrums now if you didn't before? Well, first off, not everywhere will be restriction free for quite some time. You might still be quite limited on what you can do in terms of gigs and rehearsal spaces. For those who were gigging very regularly up until 2020, there's also a long-term impact on the music industry as a whole that's worth considering. Many venues will struggle to pull through and might have to close their doors if they haven't already. This is frankly a heartbreaking situation, and it means that the pool of venues to play at might be a lot smaller. Another layer to this is that many of those venues that do make it through will also be backed up with bookings. Most of them will have a year's worth of cancelled 2020 bookings to rebook, and a lot of large bands will have also already been booked into 2021. This is only going to increase that backlog. When you add this to the fact that a lot of venues are going to have to prioritise the bands that will sell out capacity once they reopen, I think that we're going to be looking at a very different live music scene over the next few years. So this is going to depend quite heavily on what kind of band you're in as to whether or not this will particularly affect you. If you're in a party band or a cover band and you generally play things like corporate events, weddings or other venues that just need entertainment for an existing crowd, if there's an audience there that needs entertaining, they're likely to still book a band for it. But unfortunately for some smaller bands, and especially those that rely on touring in small venues, it might be quite a struggle to get bookings for some time. So playing more at home or at lower volumes in a more confined space might still be a reality for many drummers. Electronic drums are perfect for this situation, as we've found. They're also perfect for the brave new world of music entertainment. Streaming is bigger than ever, and a lot of drummers have been using electronic drums to provide their audiences with music-related content for quite some time now. This is of course possible on acoustic drums, but it's made a lot easier by use of electronics, especially if you're wanting to do this kind of thing from home or somewhere where an acoustic kit would be too problematic. The overall musical landscape is looking very different, and this is one way that drummers can keep up with the ever-changing technology. And of course, heaven forbid that anything like this ever happens again, but if something else did rear its ugly head, you'd be well prepared for any kind of shutdown with electronic drums. And I'm not gonna lie, that's all super bleak, so apologies. I've got one more point along these lines and then we'll get on to the optimistic stuff, I promise. Moving on to number 2, electronic drums of course have one very obvious advantage over acoustic drums, and that's the volume control. This is something that I've covered before, probably multiple times, and it applies to many people playing at home or small venues at any time. So why is 2021 any different? Well, the obvious one being that if we are playing at home more, this is of course going to be very important, but there is another side of this that ties into the previous point and will become very relevant to a lot of gigging drummers. For those that do manage to carry on gigging, as the live music industry tries to adapt, you might end up playing smaller venues than before for the reasons that we just discussed. This could mean that going fully electronic with your setup is more of an eventuality than it would have been before. Yes, you can play acoustic drums quieter, and that's a very important skill to have. Again, I've discussed this before, sure, but there's definitely a different sound and feel to it overall. Electronic drums can let you keep the same performance, energy and the same sounds, but just at a more controllable volume. This could play a key part in landing gigs as a band in the near future, so it's definitely worth some serious consideration. Plus, if you're of the opinion that eDrums don't look cool or don't have much stage presence, then you're in luck going into 2021 because they're getting closer than ever to acoustic drums. This is another hot button topic that I've discussed before on this channel. There's always two sides to it.
Electronic drums don't need to look like acoustic drums because they're not the same instrument.
Or,
I want my electronic drums to give me my acoustic drum experience and look the part but with volume control.
I'm not going to get into the minutiae of this argument. If you want that video, it's right up here, and I completely understand why many people don't want or need larger sizes for their electronic drums, whether that's the playing surface size or the shell depth. But if you are on the side that wants acoustic style electronic drums, then this year has been plentiful on that front. The most obvious release of 2020 for this was the Roland VAD drum kits, the VAD 306, the 503 and the 506. From looking at various electronic drum groups, forums and the comments on my channel, it's looking like these kits are proving to be very popular with people that wouldn't previously consider electronic drums. The VAD 503 and 506 in particular really look the part. I'd personally like to see them come out with a few different finishes, but they do look like a very traditional acoustic drum setup. When you pair that with the new slimline cymbals and the digital pads, they've got a great aesthetic and playing experience. Finishing the kit off with the Roland TD27 module, the best all-round module for value in my opinion of this generation, and you've got a pretty tidy overall package. The VAD 306 kit with the TD17 modules not to be forgotten either. This kit hits more of a sweet spot between head sizes and a compact footprint and shell depths. I think it's a great looking overall package for people who want to play small venues, as well as those who still want a reasonably compact kit at home but a bit more of an acoustic style feel. This year also saw the release of the Gaver G9 kits. I cover that kit more in my yearly roundup, so go check out that video if you want to see my full opinions on it. It does tick the box for acoustic style electronic drums in terms of the sizes and the aesthetics, especially on the models with the full size kick drum. Alongside this, we've got the F-Note series of drums coming out. These kits were unveiled earlier in 2020, and again I've covered them in a couple of previous videos, and it's also not 100% clear exactly when these are available, but it wouldn't surprise me if they start rolling out in 2021. So if you are looking for acoustic style eDrums, there's a lot more choice now than there ever has been. That said, none of these options currently are particularly cheap. The good news though is that generally speaking, the low to mid-range value is increasing. With more options on the market as a whole, the lower end is getting a lot more competitive. I recently reviewed the Roland TD07KV kit, and although it's definitely got some flaws, some of the sound shaping options and general functionality bring a lot more value to that $1,000 price range than previous offerings. When you add that to the fact that this is the first full mesh kit that Roland have offered at this price point, you've got a decent all-round package that's both compact and more importantly durable at this price range. There are plenty of even cheaper kits around in the sub $1,000 price range too, though I can't really vouch for their durability, reliability or playability because I've not tried them, but I do see a lot of drummers saying that they're very happy with the likes of the Alesis Nitro or Command kits in this price range. We've also seen Yamaha come out with a new line of low to mid-range kits with the DTX 6K line. Again, unfortunately I don't have any experience with this kit myself, though I did do a first impressions video with my thoughts on it, but the gist is that although the rubber pads on it are a bit uninspiring, the module looks great for a kit of this price range. I suppose if you look at it from the angle that you're getting an $800-ish module with a set of pads for only $200 more, the value of the overall offering does seem a bit more fair. Either way, if you're looking for good value in terms of sounds and features at this price point, Yamaha are definitely upping the game here, and that's great to see. And also, depending on what you class as budget or mid-range, you've also got some great options between the various TD17 and TD27 kit setups. And not forgetting there's also kits like the Alesis Strike Pro SE, which I'm not completely sold on in terms of durability due to experience with some of their pads. Again, a lot of drummers are really happy with the amount of bang that they've got for their buck with those kits. If you're not in the US, then there's also some very viable kits from ATV in the lower end price range. Unfortunately, ATV aren't distributing in the US anymore, but they're still going in Europe and Japan, and possibly some other territories too. So the overall range and choices are expanding at the moment, and that's great because electronic drums are a really fun instrument. Putting aside world collapsing viruses, price points and technical challenges, electronic drums are just really good fun, and I'd love to see more people using them. Now more than ever, there's more ways to enjoy electronic drums and to find the kind of electronic drumming that you might enjoy. If you do want to go that acoustic style route, you can lay into full-size drums at home quietly, and if you do want to go even further, there's a whole host of VSTs and drum software that you can hook up to, and it's even easier now to do this at the lower end of the price spectrum or without a traditional drum module setup. Or if you want to forget all about acoustic replication, there's a lot of joy to be had with many of the modules available on the market. There's never been more options available to explore as an electronic drummer, and if you think that even one of those things sounds interesting, I implore you to give electronics a go. And the electronic drum community can be really fun to take part in too. Groups, forums, subreddits, YouTube channels, there's so much eDrum discussion going on, and there's so many like-minded people just trying to get the best out of their instruments. It'd be great to have even more people on board going into 2021. So whether you're new to eDrums or you're a veteran, pop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, share it with any friends that you think might enjoy any aspect of the electronic drum world, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for a 2021 chock full of eDrum related content. If you want new kits or samples for your module, go check out the store at theedrumworkshop.com, and I'll see you in the next video and the next year, I guess. Enjoy your new year. Cheers!